Ingredients needed for the cheese quesadillas are 1 flour tortilla per person, 1/3 cup of shredded cheddar cheese per person, and some softened butter. So about a tablespoon of butter per person. So before we begin cooking our quesadillas, I just want to discuss how to use this electric griddle. So this appliance is super convenient to make your quesadillas because there's all of this cooking space on the flat top. First thing you're going to do is plug in your griddle. And then once you plug in your griddle, you're going to turn the griddle on. Okay, so here is a dial. And for this particular recipe, we're going to be cooking the quesadillas at 350 degrees. So to turn it on, you're going to turn the dial. And once you start turning the dial, an orange light shows up. And you're going to turn the dial until it lines up with 350. Okay, so the orange light is right next to the 350 degrees. It usually takes a few minutes for the griddle to heat up. While it's heating up, you can start getting your ingredients prepped for your quesadilla. Okay, so in order to prep your quesadilla, you're gonna take the 1 tortilla and you're gonna take a butter knife and you're gonna take some butter, a little dab of butter, and you're gonna start to spread that softened butter on one side of your tortilla. And you wanna do a nice thin coating across the entire thing, so it's evenly distributed across the tortilla. So what the butter is gonna do is prevent your quesadilla from sticking to the griddle as it cooks, and it's also gonna give our quesadilla that nice crispy brown coloration. Okay, so to test to see if the griddle is to temperature, I wet my hands a little bit and I'm gonna drop a couple of drops of water on the griddle. If you see that the griddle is sizzling and steaming from those water droplets, you know that it's to temperature and you're ready to start cooking. Something I just want to point out is a couple other safety options, or safety precautions, I should say. You want to make sure that the griddle is facing forward, so this plastic part is facing you, and you also want to make sure that this cord is nowhere near the flat top. Okay, so now that we know that the griddle's preheated, I'm gonna place the buttered side down onto the griddle. And you already hear it starting to sizzle. Once that's happening, you can take your 1/3 cup of cheese and sprinkle that cheese on one side, or 1/2 of your quesadilla. And we're gonna let that melt for a couple of minutes. Okay, notice there's some extra space on this side. Pause it for a second. So you can cook up to 2 quesadillas at a time. So I'm gonna place my second tortilla on the griddle for another group member. And I'm gonna do the same thing and sprinkle that cheese on the one side. Notice how the cheese is starting to melt on the first quesadilla. So once the cheese starts to melt, we can start to fold this in half. So to help you fold the tortilla, you can use a fork to gently fold the tortilla over, and then you're gonna use a spatula to press it down. And as the cheese is melting, it's gonna act like a glue to seal those two sides together. Notice that nice, crisp, golden brown color. Again, that's from the butter. Okay, and we're gonna get underneath and give that quesadilla a little flip and continue to press those two sides together. Okay, same thing on this side. I'm gonna use my fork and my spatula to help fold the tortilla in half, press the two sides down so they stick together. Get underneath it and give it a little flip. If you notice that your quesadillas are getting a little too crispy, you can always turn the heat down. All right, so now we're gonna get the quesadillas off the griddle and I'm gonna transfer them to a cutting board or a cutting mat. So once both sides are crispy and golden, we're gonna start to scrape the tops of the griddle. We're gonna turn the griddle off. So turn that dial so the orange light is now off. We're gonna unplug the griddle, and any cheese or crumbs that are stuck on the top, you're gonna lightly scrape, okay, right into this little hole here at the top of the griddle. Okay, I, the teacher, will be wiping the top of the griddle down for you. You're responsible to clean out this little piece that pops out and catches any crumbs. Once this is washed and dried, you're going to place it back on the griddle and slide it back in. So to cut your quesadilla into wedges, you're gonna use a pizza cutter. Now to do that, you can cut it in half, like so, and then cut the half in half again, and just repeat. Cut the half in half again. You can see that melted cheese on the inside, okay? And we can transfer it onto a plate once it's cut. And you'll repeat that with the rest of the quesadillas. So I'm gonna cut this in half, and then I'm gonna cut the half in half. So I have some fourths, and we'll transfer this onto a plate. And each person in your group will have their own quesadilla to enjoy.